Mom killed herself after dad proposed to stepmom plus update. Original. I'm 14 and I have two brothers, 17 and 15. Our mum and dad told us that they were getting divorced, which was bad enough already. Our dad introduced us to his new girlfriend, and it was very obvious they had been seeing each other way before the divorce. And my oldest brother started interrogating her, and she admitted that she had been seeing my dad for a year before the divorce. I know maybe it's not good to be taking sides in a situation like this, but my siblings and I all told our mom multiple times that we were on her side and would help her with anything she needs. The three of us went out of our way to help her. We made her favorite foods every day we were at her house, spent hours with her every day talking to her, watch movies with her, etc. My brother would wake up 2 hours early to drop my mom off to work by car instead of her having to take the subway like she usually does. Or if I was at my dad's place doing homework, I would FaceTime my mom, and we would just be there together even if we weren't saying anything. I thought my mom was doing good and she looked like she was fine, at least in front of us. But my dad told us that he was planning to marry his girlfriend, which was horrible news. And he had a really long call with my mom and he told her the same thing. The next day in school, my siblings and I got called into the office and our dad told us our mom had committed suicide. This was 2 weeks ago. I know it sounds violent, but all I want to do is beat the acid out of my dad, and stepmom I won't actually. My stepmom has never mentioned my mom once and is acting like she didn't exist other than the funeral. She acts nice to us, which makes me even more mad because she's trying to act like a good person after what she did to my family. My dad acted like he was sad for a week and then completely moved on. They're still going forward with the marriage. I hate them both so much. I'm literally starting to cry as I'm writing this. The only things keeping me sane are my brothers and friends. Does anyone have any advice? Update. I spoke to one of my school counselors and she gave me the information for a teen support group. I went there earlier with one of my brothers and I thought it was helpful. It wasn't just suicide, it was people whose family and friends died from cancer, car accidents, etc. I'm going again next week. For those of you talking about staying with someone else, my cousin and her husband live in the same city as us. I haven't been staying with them, but my brothers and I have been going there after school and then go back home at night, and she and her husband have been helping us a lot. They've said we can move in with them and we told them we wanted to. They're going to contact a lawyer to see if there's anything that can happen for that. Today we told our dad and stepmom we don't want to stay with them and he got really upset, not angry, upset, like he started crying. After we told them, our stepmom spoke to us privately and said she had been having a very hard time the past 2 weeks and didn't know what to say because she felt personally responsible for my mum's suicide and that she wishes she could go back in the time and not do any of this. She said if we wanted she would leave our dad and us if it would help us heal from this. I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to reply to that, and we never really gave her an answer. Final update. My brothers and I spoke to our stepmom and told her that we weren't going to tell her what to do, and she had to decide on her own. To our surprise, she ended up leaving. Before she left, she told us to call or text her if we needed anything, or wanted to talk about anything. She also said if we needed any help paying for college to ask her, she would help us as much as she could. Obviously, I won't take her money. Apparently her sister is a therapist and she gave us her phone number also. She was crying the entire time and saying she didn't mean for any of this to happen. I know people were saying she was being manipulative, but she looked actually remorseful. My cousin and her husband are going to apply to be our legal guardians. Their lawyer said that it would be hard if my dad is not on board because if he's not, there would need to be proof that he is actively abusing us, which he's not. If he is on board, then it would be way easier. We had a really long talk with our dad. We started at dinner and were talking until like 4 a.m. We talked about too many things to list them all here, but my dad was crying a lot. I've never seen him cry, even when my mum died. At the end he told us that none of this was worth it and that he just wants us and my mum back. He refused to consent to us staying with our cousins after we talked. My older brother talked to him privately the next day, and a little after that my dad sat us down and said that he would consent if it would help us recover from the whole situation, and he made us promise to call him every day. I was honestly surprised that Dad gave up so easily and assumed we would be staying with him, but I think he's just numb from losing basically everything he had and doesn't want to fight anymore. That's it pretty much. I guess from now I just have to move on. Maybe after some time I can reconcile with my dad. Redditor's reactions story 2 after. Redditor 1. Suicide is just so devastating for those left behind. My heart hurts for those kids, and I just wish deeply for them that they find themselves in a safe place soon. Redditor follow-up. My mum and my relationship only grew after her divorce. This makes me sad. It's so hard to see the future when your life is crumbling. Redditor 2. GF leaving or dad breaking up with her isn't going to bring the mother back. Those kids need to be away from him no matter what. That relationship is severely broken. Maybe with lots of therapy they can get some closure eventually. As it is now, I can't see how it would be mentally beneficial for any of them for the kids to live with dad. Redditor follow-up. The girlfriend might be looking for a way out. 2. The suicide was not technically her fault, but her actions were wrong and caused it to happen. That's a lot of guilt, and it would make it very difficult to stay in a relationship that is so cursed. It's based on cheating and has destroyed several lives. Then you get even more guilt because if you leave the father, you'll have destroyed all those lives and then left them all to deal with the fallout. She might be hoping the children make the decision for her so that she doesn't have to blame herself even more. It would give her a semblance of closure, and more importantly it would get her away from the mess she participated in. Comment. What a tragic situation for this poor kid and his siblings. None of the adults in their family can be relied on, and they all failed these kids. And I really don't believe the stepmom when she says she feels bad. Redditor follow-up. One of my close friends found out her husband was cheating on her. After months of drama, my friend committed suicide, leaving 2 small children behind. The guy just moved the other woman in and she plays mom to their family. How can you do that and expect the children to be okay with it? Story 2. My 36F husband 33 meters has completely lost interest in our marriage for Sif. I left. He didn't even notice. What now? This is probably a tale as old as Atari. When my husband and I met, we had a lot of things in common. As time went on and our lives shifted and changed, his interests changed. We've been together 9 years, married 6. We both work average office jobs, 40 hours a week. He started to get into this game, Sif. He is obsessed with it. From the moment he gets up on the weekends, to when he gets home from work, he plays the game. He talks to people about the game. He reads about the game. We all need hobbies, but he's completely abandoned any of the things that we did together. Hiking, jogging together, art nights, board games, bar trivia, etc. I'll try to get him to come with me to bar trivia with our friends and he just wants to stay home to play the game. I invite him for a hike and he just wants to relax that day. We've had time 5 times this year. Each time I had to initiate. I've tried to initiate dozens of other times, tried to pull him to bed. He will just come to bed, cuddle, check that I'm asleep, and go back to play his game. I'm not interested in playing video games beyond a game like Candy Crush, so me joining him would just be me being completely disinterested, confused, lost, or annoyed. The last time I talked to him about this, I told him that I was lonely in our marriage and felt neglected. He told me that I was putting too much pressure on him, that he needed time to unwind from work. He will sit on the couch next to me at night while there's Parks and Rec or something in the background. Just not interact with me at all. And call it couples time. He says this is how adults do it. It's not like in the movies. When I pressed and pressed for date night, he was quiet and didn't have much to talk about, and in the car while I was driving home, instead of interacting with me, he just pulled out his phone to get on Discord and talk to people about his game. I tried to initiate time, and he kissed me on the forehead, said goodnight, and left to go play the game. I cried for a little while. I packed my things and left to spend a week with my family. When I got back, it was almost like I just walked back into the room exactly as I'd left it. Nothing had changed. He was in the same spot as when I left. I asked him if he'd even noticed I was gone, and he said no, not really. I stared at him and he just said, "Look, I don't know what you want from me. I'm allowed to have time to myself." He kept pressing that it's normal for adults to do their own thing. I said yeah, but we need to do things together too. He kept saying I put too much pressure on him, and if I want to do something with him so badly, to give him something more interesting or important than his game. I said, so intimacy with your wife is not as important or interesting as your game? He said no and basically asked any one of my friends and they'd agree they'd prefer to stay up playing the game than cutesy cuddling and sweet talking with their wives. I didn't even know what to say. I'm dumbfounded now. Part of me is wondering if I just don't have a realistic view of relationships. It's good to have alone time. I have my alone time as well. But it feels like he's my roommate now, not my husband. Before anyone brings up depression or anxiety, I've asked him about it. He doesn't believe it's related to either, and instead thinks that he's just changed and has different priorities to what he had before. Do I have next steps here, or is it time for me to just pack up and leave for good? I'm not happy. I don't think he is the person I initially fell in love with. I think his wife is sick now, and to be honest, my self-esteem has slipped. To be less interesting or compelling than pixels on a screen. Ouch. Update: my 36F husband 33 meters has completely lost interest in our marriage and real life, and is obsessed with a video game. I took some of the advice given to me by commenters, and went looking through his phone and through his computer to see what I could find. Unfortunately, some of you who commented and didn't were correct. My husband has been cheating on me. From what I could tell, there were multiple accounts on Discord that he would be up all day and night talking to and S-timing with. It was disgusting. There were pictures, written out S-timing, the whole mess. There were screenshots of his characters doing S-time things with other characters in the game. I got records of everything, screenshots, etc. I did something that you will all have my head for unfortunately, and decided that if he was going to defile our marriage and disrespect me, I'll do the same thing back. I took my kettlebell and redacted his gaming laptop, grabbed all of his gaming things, and put them in a container. When he got home from a work meeting, I was waiting for him with the box and asked him to sit down. I told him that I was going to give him a chance to tell me anything he wanted to tell me. He just stared at me dumbly. I said, "There is nothing you want to tell me." "Nothing at all?" He said no. So I said, "Well, I found out what you've been doing on that game of yours." His face didn't change. I think he was trying to call my bluff. I got up and said, "This box is for you, and I want you in this box out of here by the end of the day." He said, "What? What are you talking about? What do you mean?" I told him that effective immediately our relationship was over, I would be contacting a divorce attorney the next day, and he can come back to get the rest of his things, but that he would not be staying here. I said that I have to leave the room because I'm so disgusted that the sight of you makes me want to throw up. He was just shocked, and then after I went into the bedroom I heard him yelling all kinds of things, sobbing and "What did you do? How could you do this? Oh my God," and sobbing like a ducking baby. Honestly, it felt good. If there was a worse way I could have hurt him, I would have done that. He wasn't crying because he was upset about his actions. No, he was crying because he couldn't jump right on and continue playing his game. Boo-hoo, his little cartoon side pieces had to wait. Well, to spare you the rest of the play-by-play, he got his things. I contacted a divorce attorney, I changed the locks, and I shared exactly what happened on FB, where all his family and some of his friends are. I will be okay. I am heartbroken because I really thought he was a good man, but I was wrong. He's a ducking loser who likes to S-time other women and have S-time with cartoon characters on a monitor. Well, he's free to do that without me. So just let that be a lesson to any other people out there whose marriage seems it's in a rough spot, whose partner is obsessed with this Final Fantasy game. You should check. Listen to your gut. Or people on Reddit. Lol. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, yikes. I had an old fiance who did this. His WoW addiction was so bad, he stole my credit card, maxed it out, and hid the evidence till after he decided that since I couldn't pay coddle him, he took off. Fastest weight loss ever. Redditor 2, oof. Honestly, I can't really blame Oop for destroying her ex's laptop and games. It's not a good or mature move, but everyone's got a breaking point. Asshole X found out what happens when you push someone that far. I hope Oop is in a much better place now with someone who actually appreciates them. Redditor follow-up. Agreed. When I found out my ex was cheating, not just once but with several different women all at the same time, I went nuts and smashed his laptop and cell phone, you know, where he stored all the pics of them doing naked things together in our driveway. I also smashed the big bottle of tequila he'd been hiding under our bed. He blamed drinking, not his own conscious decisions, for all of his infidelities. It was 100% wrong to do, but in that moment I didn't have logical brain. I had hurt brain. And angry brain sometimes gangs up with hurt brain, and the two of them kinda ignore what's right and go into Hulk mode. Redditor 3. When I played WoW for a couple of years, I knew a couple of guys who lost long-term relationships, including a fiance, because of the game. In their case it was just flat-out addiction as far as I know. When I met my now wife, I knew that I couldn't maintain a healthy relationship and do an MMO. Weaned myself off over a couple of months, being married for over 10 years. Redditor follow-up. I recently broke it off with my partner of 4 years in part because of this. When we met, he was on a WoW break, and about 6 months in, asked if I minded if he went back to raiding once a week. Not understanding what this would entail, and wanting to be the chill girlfriend, I said yes. It just escalated from there to if he was awake and in the house. WoW was open. Couldn't do anything on raid nights. Couldn't do anything on other nights because he was grinding for stuff. Couldn't talk in the house because he was a guild officer and was on Discord all the time. By the time I really pushed back, it was too late, and as he made it clear, he'd been playing Warcraft longer than I'd been alive. Not much you can do to compete with that. Redditor 4. Poor woman. I'll never understand why people don't duck in Breakuru. Why cheat? Most cowardly AMD childish thing a human can do. Redditor follow-up. Because they want to have their cake and eat it too. Living with her, she was contributing to the household both financially and otherwise, cooking, cleaning, etc. said it herself. He was treating her like a roommate. The situation suited him just fine, and he didn't care enough about her to be honest. So why go through the effort of a breakup? That's how people like that think. Redditor 5. Sounds like the other side of the green text. What a guy. Yikes.